of ritualistic child abuse.
Witchcraft. Demons that live in all of us, to exploration of the macabre and delving deep into the unknown. Let's explore the darkness of mankind, one crime at a time. I'm your host of the Grim and Gruesome, Raven. Let's go rogue and get right into today's chilling crime. The case of Mary Bateman, the notorious Yorkshire Witch, who became known for fraud, robberies, and an unfortunate murder which ultimately led to her execution. So let's start off from the very beginning. Born as Mary Harker in 1778 in the village of Assenby in the Harrogate district of North Yorkshire, England, Mary learned to read and write by the age of just 13 and began her early years working as a servant girl. When Mary was 20 years old, she moved to York and began working as a dressmaker. Her stay in York didn't last long though, as she fled the following year after being involved in a burglary and being caught. Upon fleeing York, Mary made her way to Leeds and began to make herself home there for the time being. Over the next few years, Mary worked as a mantua maker, which, for reference, was a form of clothing women wore back in the late 17th and 18th centuries that could resemble an overgown or a robe in some ways. Alongside her profession of making fancy garments, though, Mary also quickly gained a reputation as a fortune teller and a wise woman among many of her clients and others within Leeds, helping women and men alike with their troubles, offering advice to those who asked for it, while at the same time she continued to carry out her petty theft and robberies to feed her greedy intentions. In 1782, she married a man named John Bateman, reportedly just 3 weeks after even meeting him. While John worked an honest job as a wheelmaker, Mary was continuously involved in criminal acts, and it was reported that the couple had to move frequently in order to escape the punishment of law that loomed over Mary due to her deceitful actions. It's also been said that Mary escaped going to prison for theft and robbery because she would actually persuade the witnesses by bribing them, paying them off in order to keep her freedom. Amongst her myriad of robberies and theft charges, Mary has been reported to have once roamed the streets of Leeds after a major fire happened, begging people there for money and goods to give to those who fell victim of the fire. But instead of actually helping the victims, Mary ultimately kept the money and donations all for herself. In 1806, Mary reportedly joined the followers of the proposed prophetess Joanna Southcott and began attending her meetings. Part of Joanna's Southcotian sect, a hoax known as the Prophet Hen of Leeds became a major focal point, in which eggs laid by a hen were believed to have written on them the quote, "Christ is coming," a message believed by the sect to be a message of the soon arrival of the end of days. 3 of the proposed messianic eggs were discovered by Mary Bateman herself, but remember how she was very good at being sly and keen to deceit? Well, it was later discovered that Mary had actually written on the eggs using an acid. And to make it seem even more real, she then went to the extent of reinserting those eggs into the poor hen's oviduct. So then the hen would lay the eggs, again, but then the eggs would show the mysterious writing on them upon being laid. So not only was Mary dishonest and greedy, but she even went to the extent of harming animals as a means to get what she wanted. In that same year, Mary was reportedly approached by William Perigo and his wife, Rebecca. Rebecca had been suffering from chest pains, and Mary, still being viewed as a prominent advice giver amongst her other involvements, they went to Mary for a diagnosis and healing advice. Upon consulting with the pair, Mary determined that Rebecca had been put under a spell, and that the spell, or curse, was what was causing her the chest pains. It would soon come to light, however, that in order for the pains to remain and even worsen, Mary began feeding Rebecca pudding which she had purposely laced with poison, a means to assure she never got well, and continued to seek Mary's advice and assumed care. Because of this, Rebecca's condition ultimately worsened, and she eventually passed away in 1808. After Rebecca's passing, in October of 1808, William Perigo accused Mary Bateman of poisoning his wife. He even claimed that Mary had swindled money from them for the 2 years she had claimed to have cared for Rebecca, all the while poisoning her, making them believe that they actually needed special charms and remedies to aid in bringing forth good health, when in reality, it was all a scam for her to get money. Although Mary Bateman declared she was innocent and she never meant any harm, when her home was searched by authorities for evidence of potential involvement, there they found poison, along with many personal belongings of her victims, including that of the Perigo couple. After the evidence was found, Mary was taken into custody and her trial was set, and would take place in York in March of 1809. According to the Criminal Chronology of York Castle by William Knipe, the trial reportedly lasted a total of 11 hours, fully going over every aspect of the case and viewing all of the evidence that was uncovered. The jury ultimately found Mary guilty of the charges of fraud, as well as the murder of Rebecca Perigo. Reportedly, right after the judge claimed that Mary would be sentenced to death, Mary proclaimed that she was actually 22 weeks pregnant and should not be executed by hanging. Hearing this, the judge then requested that the local authorities gather a panel of matrons to analyze and assess her pregnancy claims for truthfulness. A group of 12 women were sworn into the jury and proceeded to conduct a full physical examination of Mary, ultimately concluding that she was in fact not pregnant, and she would be able to be executed. Mary then remained in prison for a short while until her execution date formally arrived. Mary Bateman, who became known as the Yorkshire Witch, charged with fraud, robbery, and the confirmed murder of Rebecca Perigo, was executed by hanging on Monday, March 20th, 1809. So that was the case of Mary Bateman, the notorious witch of Yorkshire, and how her deceitful actions and lack of remorse ultimately led to her imprisonment and demise. Let me know your thoughts on this case, and if you have any questions or suggestions regarding it, or any other cases I've covered, feel free to contact me at roguedarknesspod@gmail.com. You can also reach me directly on Instagram or Twitter at rogue_darkness. I'm always interested in hearing your thoughts on cases I've covered, as well as hear any suggestions you may have for future ones, so feel free to send them my way. As always, if you like what you hear on the show, definitely consider sharing Rogue Darkness with your family and friends, and also by leaving a rating and review on Apple iTunes or any other platform where you can leave a review. By rating, reviewing, subscribing, and sharing the podcast, you are directly helping the show out, and I'm so grateful for all of your support. And I always like to mention now that I do have my YouTube channel up and running, so if you want to give my videos a look, they're slowly but surely coming out as I create them. The link is down below, so don't forget to like and subscribe. And as you've heard many a times before, I do have a Ko-fi page set up, so if you ever want to check it out or to submit a donation to help the show out, the link is down below in the description. Any support on there is always greatly appreciated, but it's never expected. And with that said, that concludes this week's episode of Rogue Darkness. The darkness is all around us, and I can confidently say that reality truly is more terrifying than fiction. Until next time.